In such a new sport, the number of matchups that had evolved into actual animosity in the build-up to the fight is surprising. All fight fans want to brag about how respectable, honorable, and almost samurai-like mixed martial arts is. But sometimes all you want to see is two guys who despise each other go at it. But let's discuss this in detail, because this is the biggest feuds of MMA in history. Now let's get going. Number 5. Georges St. Pierre versus Matt Hughes. These two fighters will go down in history as two of the nicest men to ever compete in the UFC cage. But back in 2004, when they were fighting for the title of the world's best welterweight, they didn't have much to say about each other. Hughes was Georges St. Pierre's first of 2 defeats when he submitted the emerging Canadian star via armbar with 1 second left in the first round. Hughes was one of GSP's MMA idols, and he said that he hesitated to look Hughes in the eyes before their first battle. The setback fueled Rush's desire to go back into title contention in any way he could, and for the first and only time in his career, he became the villain. He approached Hughes in the octagon after Hughes had just defeated BJ Penn, saying, "I'm not impressed by your performance."
I'm very glad you won that fight, Matt, but I'm not impressed by your performance.
The rematch was scheduled for UFC 65, and Rush won by TKO to reclaim the UFC welterweight championship. A trilogy was in order, and with one for GSP and one for Matt. In 2007, the third fight took place, and no one knew what to anticipate because GSP was coming off a stunning loss to Matt Serra. But GSP overcame obstacles to win the rubber match with the identical armbar technique that Hughes had used to defeat him 3 years prior.
He stared him down.
Well, we wait for this for a long time since George.
This is one of the few rivalries on the list that was built on mutual respect and a burning desire to be number one, rather than any genuine animosity. Number 4. Matt Hughes versus Matt Serra. While the good competition between Hughes and GSP may not have been founded on hatred, Hughes' conflict with Matt Serra certainly was. These two warriors were complete polar opposites. Hughes was an all-American wrestler from a farming family who believed in the power of prayer, whereas Serra was a brazen New Yorker whose favorite words were dick and pasta. However, they are both excellent fighters. Because of the severity of their dispute, I had to double-check that these warriors had only fought once.
With me. It's the guy that I don't like very much.
Believe me, all I want to do is beat this guy down.
Beating that guy that ran his mouth on season.
Hughes served as a guest coach on Season 4 of The Ultimate Fighter, which Serra went on to win. That sparked a lot of their hatred. When Hughes first came on the set, he irritated a few of the combatants, including Serra. Their animosity didn't really heat up until Season 6 when Serra, the welterweight champion at the time, and Hughes were coaching opposite one another. Hughes was upset by Serra's curse-filled remarks, and the New Yorker proceeded to ridicule his Illinois opponent, calling him a chipmunk. After months of back and forth, the two ultimately battled at UFC 98, with Matt Hughes winning by unanimous decision. After their fight, the two embraced and looked to have forgotten about their previous dislike for one another, but it will undoubtedly go down in UFC history as one of the most memorable feuds. Number 3. Quentin Rampage Jackson versus Wanderlei Silva. It's difficult to determine how much of this rivalry sprang from genuine hatred and how much was fueled by organizations eager to promote their most aggressive fighters. Both of these men would attack their shadow if it came too close to them, so it's no wonder that when they were put against one another, they had explosive striking bouts.
From Memphis, Tennessee is 30 years old. The Brazilian, Wanderlei Silva, 2 years.
When both the American and Brazilian were at the height of their stardom, they first met at Pride Final Conflict 2003. After a succession of knees caused the referee to stop the bout, Wanderlei won the Grand Prix. The atmosphere surrounding the first bout was so electrifying that it only took Pride officials 11 months to schedule a rematch. The second bout became MMA legend when Silva won with a knee that landed flush on Jackson's jaw, knocking him out and sending him through the ring ropes unconscious. After his 2 knockout victories, Silva would have been sure of defeating Rampage any day of the week, But things went differently when they next battled under the UFC banner. In the build-up to the third fight, the Axe Murderer shoved Jackson at the weigh-ins prior to UFC 92. However, Silva's career growth slowed as Jackson remained at the top of the UFC's light heavyweight division. And the talent gap between the two fighters was shown when Rampage landed a quick left hook on Silva's chin, knocking him out. While Wanderlei may have won both battles 2-1, many people consider Rampage to be the actual victor, as he had the last word. Number 2. Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz. Because he pissed off every opponent against whom he was pitted, Tito Ortiz was certain to appear on this list more than once, and Chuck Liddell's feud with the Huntington Beach bad boy is legendary. The rivalry was always going to be pushed by the UFC as two of the most recognizable names in the light heavyweight division's history. When they battled for the first bout at UFC 47 in 2004, Liddell became the first guy to knock out Ortiz. After Ortiz defeated Victor Belfort and Patrick Cote in a row, Liddell stepped into the octagon to put Ortiz in his place, declaring, "You won't walk in the ring with me again." However, the two fought again at UFC 66 in one of the most anticipated rematches of all time. Chuck Liddell came out on top once more, cementing his status as the 205-pound monarch. Both fighters were pitted against each other as coaches on the reality series The Ultimate Fighter, with a third fight between the light heavyweight legends scheduled for after the tournament. MMA fans couldn't believe their luck when both fighters were pitted against each other as coaches on the reality series The Ultimate Fighter. In an interview regarding the show, Liddell stated he planned to murder Ortiz after he divulged sensitive details about Liddell's alcoholism. When Chuck and Tito almost came to blows after a questionable stoppage, their enmity spilled over into the competition. Ortiz withdrew from the battle near the conclusion of shooting due to a recurrence of a neck ailment and was replaced by Rich Franklin, who ended up retiring the Iceman, thereby putting an end to the trilogy. Number 1. Frank Mir versus Brock Lesnar. Okay, this may generate some controversy because some diehard MMA fans still doubt Brock Lesnar's reign as UFC heavyweight champion. But I'm not one of them. If we're being literal, this is the largest rivalry in MMA history, with the two behemoths weighing in at nearly 500 pounds combined.
A very intelligent strategist realized that he wants to be well prepared, and he is.
Frank Mir, a jiu-jitsu specialist, gave former WWE superstar Brock Lesnar a bruising and a welcome to the UFC in 2008, when he submitted him by a knee bar in the first round. Most UFC fans disregarded the Colossus Lesnar as a novelty act, but he bounced back with victories over Heath Herring and Randy Couture, earning him the heavyweight title. This set up a rematch between number 1 contender Mir and Brock Lesnar, who had been quite outspoken in the build-up about his confidence that he would defeat Brock Lesnar 99% of the time. The second meaning, though, must have been that 1%, as Lesnar knocked out the former champion in the second round with ground and pound to silence the naysayers. And with that, we would like to conclude. But we'd love to know which of these fights has actually caught your eye.